Well, it's election day here in America. It's Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. And the thing that's going to bring it home for one side or the other is something that we're very fond of here in the Renegade Nation. And that, of course, is the numbers. But what do the numbers suggest going into the polling today? Well, we've talked about them quite a bit. And by all accounts and circumstances right now, it looks like that there are more Trump supporters showing up than Kamala Harris supporters, at least insofar as comparing to previous election cycles. And one of the things to look for is how each side is behaving heading into the final hours of Election Day as we proceed through today and into tonight when the vote counts. And, well, if you're one side and maybe you are going to try to quell the fears of your voters, you're going to put out videos asking them not to panic as the returns come in. Let's talk about it. Renegade Online. This is a thing, apparently. Eric Dodry put this out. Harris campaign chair. The early vote is exactly as we'd like to see it. This is a 4-minute video. This is from the Harris campaign chair. I have not seen this whole thing, but I've got to imagine we are about to hear some epic frickin' levels of copium here. Let's roll this beautiful beam footage.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen O'Malley Dillon back here with you to give you an update, this time on election night.
She has glasses. She's smart.
We feel very, very good about where we are. As we look at our wide map of our 7 battleground states, we see that early vote is exactly as we'd like to see it. More and more people are voting. Younger, more diverse voters are voting in all of our battleground states. And our organization in every one of our battleground states is kicked. It is volunteers, knocking on
Pause
doors.
this for a second, Valiant. Pause this. I hope that, please, if you want to lose, Harris campaign, keep saying this. This is the best suppression system ever to convince your own voters they don't need to go vote because everything's swell.
It really is. It really is amazing. Like, how do you do this?
I mean, let me do this real quick, because what's amazing is we actually have footage. We have footage of a Kamala Harris voter right now heading to the polls.
Here, vegetables. Thank you. So, I'm non-binary.
Who the fuck starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
I'm sorry. No, wait, that was the right clip. Okay.
Why is it always the horny non-binary people that serve you vegan meals? Why?
Let's go back to see what else that the Kamala Harris campaign says. We're doing great right now in the early voting. When
wait, I want to fact check her.
Oh, please, that's why I'm playing this. You want me to? You want to fact check in real time? Go ahead.
I'm looking at Arizona right now, and 18 to 29-year-olds say they want to vote early in person more than anybody else. So that's right. All early in person voters went 30 points to Trump. Oops.
Oh, man.
Calls reaching our voters to make sure they have everything they need to go vote. There are still a lot of people out in the country and in our battleground states that haven't made up their mind yet. As we've looked at our data, those undecided voters in the last week in particular are breaking for the vice president in double-digit margins.
Anything you want to speak to that one, Mark? I mean, undecided voters, of course, in Seattle and the Bay Area of California and probably Washington, D.C., maybe, but...
Yeah. I mean, I have 3%. Like, I had Arizona pulled up. They're all kind of the same, but I have 3% say they're not sure, but over 1% say they're probably not going to vote anyways. And it's like, this is going to be... I mean, they're probably not going to show up. So, yeah, they want them to show up. They hope they're going to.
If she's right, we're talking about a 0.15% shift.
Yeah, right.
That's what we're talking about. It just sounds big because she says double-digit margin.
Double-digit of a very small number of outstanding undecided voters. So, I mean, it's like, what? Okay.
We know there are still more undecideds left out there, and they are more open to hearing from
white dudes for Harris. Yeah. White
I like
dudes
this guy
for
in
Harris right here.
overalls. Look at that dude in the overalls over there. That's a manly man.
That's a manly man right there. He's definitely playing Dragon Age right now.
He looks like Dale from King of the Hill, wound up in an urban setting.
That's an insult for Dale, though.
We're going to keep doing the work, and we're going to close it out with them. All right, so let's talk about election night. Don't be anxious if the race isn't called exactly when the polls close in your state. Georgia and North Carolina, we're going to get those results earlier than we get in other parts of the country. But there's also going to be states that don't even start counting ballots until later in the day, and it's going to take a while to count them because we're going to have so many.
Does it feel like this entire video, 4.5 minutes of this, does it feel like this is addressed to a bunch of grade schoolers?
Yes, just like everything Kamala says.
I mean, it's like, who?
But what's the point? What is the point of this video? What does this do for them?
Yeah.
Everybody in this video looks like a Gen Zer or like young millennial or older, younger millennial, older Gen Zer kind of thing. It's like the way that she's saying this, like, don't be upset when your state doesn't get called the moment the polls get closed.
Yep.
How does this help the Harris campaign? I don't get it. Mark, do you understand?
No, yeah, well, there's part, I don't know if this is a suppression play. I'll tell you, there is a part of me that reflexively gets sweaty between my shoulder blades when I just hear what they said. Because listen, if Trump had the polling he has now in 2016, everybody would have been laughing at Hillary Clinton and gloating about his impending win, right? And so what they're saying is, oh, you're going to get an early read out of Georgia and North Carolina. And I think that Georgia and North Carolina will very validly tell you the way the polling miss is going in a way that you could easily project onto the other states. And they're saying, oh, you might be anxious. Well, yeah, because Georgia and North Carolina aren't where the action is, right? And so hold on, we've got the blue walls, we got what's going on in Detroit, and it's like, really disgusting how 2020 hangs over this whole thing like a cloud, and it affects everybody's way to talk about how Trump is winning in the polls right now, and probably he's going to do better because of the way they keep missing. But then it's like they put those states on the board, and it's like, ew.
Yeah, and like you talked about earlier, Mark, it's some of those states that could get, and Florida, we didn't even get to that one, and it's not that Florida's in question, right? But it becomes a matter of what is the margin of victory going to look like? Is it going to look like 5 to 6 points from 4 years ago? We all saw how fast Florida came. Florida was like, okay.
It was happening fast. It was
the polls closed, and there's, there's the Eastern time zone, and then there's the Central time zone. I mean, within 45 minutes of the polls closing in the Central time zone, Pensacola and all that area, I mean, it was done. They had 90-something% of them. It was done. It was over, and it was Trump by 5 to 6 points. If that happens, if 45 minutes after the Central time zone polling in Florida closes, and you've got something that looks like Trump plus 8 or Trump plus 9, bigger than it was 4 years ago, it's like you said, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think that, it's not like a Republican surge is just going to be limited to one place?
Well, they're going to be able to do some double back handsprings over that one pretty easily, to be honest with you. They're going to say, oh, look at COVID, and all of the, anti-COVID people went to Florida, and, it's a cult of personality. They're going to say something, right?
Oh, yeah.
But they can't deny Georgia, man. Georgia went for Biden ostensibly. And if it goes for Trump by 3 to 4 points, that's a leftward polling miss, and then magnify that 2-point miss on every other state. And what does it say?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just it. If it's north of 2%, and that's the miss, like we covered earlier, north of 2%, there's a lot more stuff that falls into Trump's direction. You talk about New Hampshire comes in, potentially Virginia. You start going down the list. It's not just, the necessary things. And that's where you start seeing these 312, 329 electoral vote slides in his favor. So
this is why I've said that Wisconsin is so important. Yeah. And that is, if he wraps up the Sun Belt, Wisconsin is the state where they have the least ability to exert corruption in the apparatus. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin really matters.
Well, so Mark, you're going to know this better than me, but Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, they all kind of vote together historically, correct? And so is Minnesota involved in that too, or is it just those three?
Minnesota is probably going to move in the same direction as them, but it'll be a point or two left. I think part of the problem is that, they do vote together, but in everybody's polls, they don't necessarily match. And I'm no different. I have Trump up 2 in Pennsylvania, up 3 in Wisconsin, but I have Harris up 1 Harris up 1 in Michigan. And trust my Michigan sample. I think Trump might do better than them. But again, it includes some stuff, right?
Right.
And it's hard to tell, especially after the last couple of days when you have this, Rashida Tlaib not endorsing Harris. Well, at the same time, you've got the mayor of the largest Arab American majority city out there that has come out for Trump and telling the Muslim Arab Americans out there in Michigan to go towards Trump. And again, when you look at the margins of victory from 16 and 20, that population alone could have the impact.
You're exactly pointing out the limitation of polls. I can't pick that up. There's just no way. So I'm looking more for like, oh, hey, Trump. And again, nobody cares that Trump ostensibly called people Nazi or whatever, right? They don't care. They know who Trump is. It's all baked in. But maybe 8 years ago they would have, right? But we're talking about like a few point movement in a group like women or a few point movement in a group like independents. When you start talking about a 40-point movement in a group like Muslims, you're just not going to pick that up. Like in a 1,000-person poll of Michigan, I'm going to get 50, 60 Muslims, and that has a margin of error of like 10 points. You're just not going to pick it up.
Right.
And you're probably not even going to break the crosstabs out that small. And you don't have funding to go to do a very specific poll, and you might not even poll it right. And so there's so many things like that.
You'd have to run a poll basically like Justin Dearborn. So,
The other thing to throw out here, Mark, is that there is the possibility that if the country is farther right than what even you're polling, and you're suggesting that possibility exists, then New Hampshire might be in play. And if early on in the night, New Hampshire's in play, that could have a domino effect where we get out of the Fugazi stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly. So, yes, I in New Hampshire, I had Harris down 1 point, well within the margin of error, basically a statistical tie. So the problem is that I picked up a really big move to the right over the last 4 years. And so that will explain some of what happens on election day. But what explains the other half is the turnout story, because Trump and Harris aren't running just against Trump and Harris. They're running against the couch. And it looks like the couch is earning a bigger proportion of the poll than it has in the past. And I didn't really bake any of that in. So that's what it ultimately comes down to. And we're seeing the beginnings of the couch winning more than it has in the past. So that's why, again, I think there's going to be an outperformance for Trump. And we'll just have to see.
I'm excited. Tuesday.
This is a journey we are all going to be on together, and we're going to stay together as we see in some states we're up, in some states maybe votes come in and we look a little behind, and it's going to shift over the night and in the hours after the polls close. But you're going to stay with us. We know every single vote's going to count.
Where have I seen that before?
We're going to have more votes than Donald Trump.
Hey, hold just a second,
Now,
Valiant.
while we're on this,
If there was any realm of possibility that they believe they were going to have a big win, they would never put this out. Ever.
Exactly. This seems like people are nervous. Here's the thing. When you've got the early vote, and this was going to take a long time to count, is all these early ballots that came in, especially in paper balloted states. Fortunately, we don't have that here in Louisiana. We get our stuff done fast. But for all these other places like the Pennsylvanias and these other places that have these paper ballots, if the margin has shrunk that much, I don't know how much, and that is to say between Democrat and Republican ballots that have so far been turned in, I know the polls are going to shift and things like that overnight, but I can't see it happening to the degree. 2020.
I mean, knock on wood, they're just not going to have piles of mailbags sitting around the same way they did in the past, right?
Rolling in at 4 a.m. on a truck.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this was really shrewd of Trump. This is something Seth Keshel clued me in on, and a lot of people gave Trump and his people flack for saying the Republicans should vote early. A lot of people said, no, you're giving them a chance to know exactly how much to, and I think there's some truth to that. But if Trump had everybody vote on election day, what we would have been hearing for the last week and a half is the incredible Democrat turnout, how people are flooding the polls, and how the Democrats are building massive firewalls because of people energized by abortion and blah, blah, blah. Now they're putting this out.
Right. They don't have that argument. Trump took the argument away from them to say that Democrats are so far ahead because of early voting that Republicans don't have a chance, so they should just stay home. Right? That's the suppression tactic You got to turn your side out more than the other guy's side. And it didn't work for them.
This journey together, it is possible, maybe even likely, that Donald Trump will come out there early and say he's won this thing, similar to what he did in 2020. Don't be fooled. Don't be worried. You can be assured that the nonpartisan decision desks that are watching these races and have been counting and calling them throughout the course of the
please stop using the word nonpartisan. I don't think that word means what you think it means. Trust me.
Last several elections, they're not going to be swayed by what Donald Trump says, and we are prepared if Donald Trump and his friends try to claim that they've won or throw out all their bag of tricks in this election. They tried it in 2020, and it didn't work, and it's not going to work again. I'm no lawyer, but we get a lot of them that work with us, including Dana Remus, who is the best out there and who's been leading our effort, and she's going to tell us more about all of the incredibly important work that we've been doing as a campaign to make sure every single vote is counted.
Thanks, Jen. There is a lot floating around the internet about voting in this election. Some of it is correct, and some just isn't. But lawyers deal in facts. So I'm here.
Unless you're Alan Bragg in New York.
I'm getting heart palpitations just watching this. So I'm picking up like religious catechisms and like Trump's. Listen, what we watch it. Trump doesn't come out and proclaim victory. You have the media work together on their decision desks to call states. Look, everybody knows exactly how that's happened from the previous cycle, right?
Right.
And I will say more and more people are renting their own decision desks. Many people are doing their own streams. A lot fewer people are watching mainstream media.
Yes.
But the media has their own analysts call these things. It's not Trump out there winning. And so this is very devious and sick, in my opinion. And there is a quasi-religious aspect to the left. And we found it in our signals. We have evangelical Christians going Trump by like 30 to 40 points, depending on the state. But Harris wins with atheists as much as with Democrats. And so there is this kind of aspect of the left that I think has filled the void of religion. And I think you're seeing a lot of the signals and cues here. Now they're appealing to facts. And I don't know. There's just stuff that's just triggering my public opinion brain here.
I hear you, and I agree with everything you're saying right there.
This entire thing seems to me to be laying the groundwork for contesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is all about. Days and days of not hanging chads, but 3-day-old mail-in ballots and why they should be accepted. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's the point.
Every vote.
Right. Every legitimate vote, right? Every legally cast ballot by an actual registered legal voter. I'm all for that. But well, here we are. But again, it's like you said before, this seems to reek of desperation. You don't see the Trump campaign putting out a video like this right now. So
you want to hear a quick fact? You're going to like this one. So we ask everybody, how important is it to prevent cheating in elections? And everybody says, yeah, super important. Like Democrats, it's like 85%. Republicans is like 95%. There is a 10-point gap. But then we ask, which is more important, to make sure everybody can vote or to prevent cheating in elections? And Republicans and independents overwhelmingly say prevent cheating in elections. It's like 60, 70%. I forget the numbers. But with Democrats, more of them actually care about making sure everybody can vote than they do about preventing cheating. So there's just a total flip-flop there. It's an entirely different mindset. And it's, I think, from years of being railed about like voter suppression tactics in the South and how much race situations are elevated within, their dogmas.
Yeah.
But isn't it also true that it's like an 85% in favor across the country of required ID? Which I think,
absolutely,
decimates the argument from the Democrats.
Yeah, we've asked that question too. Black voters overwhelmingly want IDs, and we asked, have you ever been denied the ability to vote? And like low single digits of Black voters say yes. I forget the numbers, but it's very little race signal at all, in fact. And the signal for audits are off the scale. The signal for paper ballots are really strong too. And people think that the machines enable. There's so many questions we've asked that point to the exact opposite about what you hear in the mainstream media. That it's really kind of sad.
Yeah. Let's finish this up. We got about 2 minutes left.
So I'm here to give you the simple facts about voting. The first thing to know is that voting in 2024 is easier and more secure than ever. We have resources available 24/7 across the country to make sure that you can vote and that your vote counts. The second thing you need to know is that our election system is strong. It's designed to ensure that every legal vote counts. Tens of millions of people have already voted safely, and election administrators across the country are working quickly to identify, address, and mitigate any issues. If the race is close, there's a process in place for after votes are cast to make sure we get it right. But let's be very clear. Candidates who are unhappy with the results cannot make up new ways to challenge our elections. They can't interfere in the certification of election results. Any attempts to obstruct or delay certification are flatly illegal. The American people decide who is president. Full stop. Donald Trump made all of these claims in 2020, and when he had to defend them in court, he lost. More than 60 times he lost because he could not produce any evidence. Here is the bottom line. The 2024 election will be free, fair, and secure. Americans decide who the president is. 2024 will be no different.
Thanks, Gal. That was super helpful, and I hope everyone feels as confident as I do with Dana at the helm of our effort. This is going to be a close race.
Super confident.
We feel so good about what we've been building together and the voters that are coming to vote for Vice President Harris and Governor Walz. So keep up the hard work, helping us and volunteering. Don't forget to make your plan to vote. If you need any information at all, go to iwillvote.com. We've got this. We're going to win this thing. We just got to keep doing the work.
I have a feeling that this video is going to come back to bite them on the ass so hard. Because if things go down the way according to your observation and your polling looks, and they'll be the ones this year screaming and jumping up and down, trying to fight things and delay certification or use some constitutional trickery.
I would love to know when they recorded this. I would love to know when this was recorded and produced.
I mean, to me, it looks like it's something they probably just did, because they even mentioned the fact about how Donald Trump, there was that news story just in the last few days that Donald Trump might, declare victory before, quote unquote, it's official or whatever the case is. That's only been in the last couple of days. So I have a feeling that this has been done. This was over the weekend. They just released this tonight from what I gathered.
Wow. I mean, this is like out of Hollywood Central casting too. And I'll tell you, it's really weird for them to talk about facts and then finish up with factually incorrect statements about the election integrity cases. That's a mind blower.
Right. Exactly. I didn't even want to get down into that. But the point is that, it's illegal to interfere with the election certification. What does that mean? Does that mean that you can't actually file a lawsuit because something is being done improperly? Because I don't think that's what that means.
Yeah, that's pretty weird, because I guarantee you Mark Elias is working on a case like that right now. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's interesting to know if there's conversations behind the scenes about whether or not she's going to concede, and what the listen. There's tripwires, right? Like they got a list of tripwires that they're going to use probably. Yeah, and the word selection too is crazy. They voted safely. Like what?
It's just weird too, because Mark, it seems to me like some of those tripwires probably would already be signaled, because they know very well what the numbers are. They have systems in place to know what the numbers are looking like from the early vote. And my thought is that they surely are getting now a picture of where this is going, and it doesn't look good for them. But they're not putting that out there. And at the same time, they're also not putting out a video that I would think would drive their voters to vote more. So very weird, very, very strange thing.
No, it's just wild. I mean, they definitely have a plan. The only thing we don't know is what letter it is, right? That's the problem.
Yeah, which this is Mark 17. Where are we right now? Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.